Seches Bava Kamma Daf Tes Vav contains three sugyas and one mishnah. First sugya is how do we know that women are in the parsha of Nezikin? Four sources for that. Second sugya is that of Palga Nizka Knasa or Mamayna, a machlekes which has repercussions throughout the Masechta when you pay part of the nezek for Karen. What is the reason for that? And then we'll get to the mishnah, which is our third sugya, that of 5 tamen and 5 mu'adim. So let's begin. We've seen in our last mishnah that women are included in all the halachas of nezikin. They can be a nizik and get paid. They can be a mazik and have to pay. Smar says, what are the sources for this? Smar brings 5 opinions. So the first one is brought by Rabbi Huda Amar Rav and Tana Debei Rabbi Shmuel, and that is in the sugya of Einshin. It says, Isha ki asem mikol chatois. It includes a man and a woman in all punishments for all errors. Paying is considered a punishment as well, and therefore women are included in that. The second makari is the Rebbe Lazar from Mishpatim, which is all dinim, all the halachos of monetary issues. It says, Ve'ela mishpatim asher tasam lifneihem. These are the laws we should place before them, plural, including men and women. So men and women are the same for all of dinim, which includes nezikin. The third is from the Rebbe Chizkiah and Mesa Galili, and that's talking about Misa and a kaifer that you pay if your ox kills someone, and says Vehemis Isha Isha, so that a man and a woman are both put together in that. These are the three. There are only 3 sources for that women are included in Nezikin. It says, what is the need for each of these? Why do you have to say one by each of these 3 things? Again, we had Einshin, we had Dinin, and we had Misais. The Gemara says, if you would have only said the first one, if you would have only said Einshin, I would think that the reason that women are included in Einshin is because we want them to be able to have a kapara as well, to take off their punishment they would have in Shmayim. But Dinin, why should they be included in that? Business, something that men are usually assigned to do and women are not, and therefore they wouldn't be in the halachas of Dinin necessarily. Now, if we would have only said the halacha of Dinin, I would have said, you know why women have to be in the parsha of the Dinim? Because they have to be able to operate within the world. They have to be able to go to a store and buy something. They have to be able to sell something. How are they going to have what to eat if they can't buy and sell? And therefore they're in those halachas. But kapara, maybe kapara is something you only assign to men because men have the responsibility for most mitzvahs. Women do not have as many mitzvahs, and therefore maybe kapara is not something that they need because they don't necessarily have so many oinchin. If you would have said both of those, I still would not know about Koifer by Misa, because again, we said the reason why she would need kapara, and we said the reason why she would need parnasa, why she would need chiyusa to be able to live, but to pay koifer, who says that she needs to pay koifer? That applies maybe only to men, because koifer is type of kapara, maybe that applies only to men, that they have that responsibility. And if it would have only said koifer, if it would have only said koifer and Misa, I would think that that only applies to women because there's loss of life there, and therefore it's a very serious issue. However, these other things which are just nezikin, maybe they don't apply. Okay, that's that. Now the Gemara goes to the concept of chatzi nezik. We said that a karen, an animal that attacks with intent to hurt or to damage and destroy, you only pay half nezik for that the first 3 times. The Gemara wants to know, what is the reasoning behind that half nezik? Why half? Why not the whole thing? So there's 2 opposite ways of viewing this. Rav Papa says the half nezik is really, we're being nice to you. Really, you owe full nezikin. You really should pay full. Midrash, you should pay full because an ox is not assumed to be guarded at all. It's likely to damage at all times, and therefore, if you didn't guard it, if you didn't watch it, it's your responsibility, and if you have to pay full. Why do you have to only pay half? The Torah had a leniency on you. There was chas rachmana alei, because it didn't happen often. The Torah says we're going to be nice to you because you couldn't necessarily have expected it. Now, Rav Huna ben Yeshua says the opposite. He says, no, really, Mikar Din, you don't have to pay anything. And the reason is because most oxen are considered to be watched. Now, we gave you a knas, we penalized you and said we're going to charge you half price anyway, even though you really should know anything, really you should be putter. We're going to charge you half because we want to encourage people to watch their oxen anyway, to watch them even more. And therefore we give you half, but that is a knas. It is a fine, it's punitive, and it's not the amount you actually owe. So, 2 opposite approaches. Again, according to Rav Papa, you really make her, then you should owe everything. According to Rav Yehuna, or Rav Yeshua, make her, then you shouldn't have to pay anything. So, says the Gemara, let's look at our last Mishnah. Our last Mishnah had said that the Nisik and the Mazik both take part in the Tashlumin. They both lose. They both have to pay something. So the Gemara says, that fits according to the Mandi Amar that Paganiska Mimoina, that really you should pay full. Because you're supposed to pay full, you end up having to only pay half. So you pay the half that you paid. The Nizik takes the loss on the other half. So you both take a loss. However, if you'll Paganiska Knaso, so then it means really you shouldn't have to pay anything. So we made you have to pay half. All right, so you have to pay half. But you can't say that the Nizik has to pay anything. The Nizik doesn't lose anything. The Nizik didn't deserve anything. He was supposed to walk away with nothing. That was the Iker Hadin. We gave him half for free as a knas on the other guy. So you can't say that he takes part of the loss. So the Gemara says, no, takes part of the loss means that he has to take the loss in the value of the carcass from the time that the attack happens until he manages to sell it. The loss in value, that's his hit. And that he loses out of his Chatzi Nezek because he gives him the carcass in whatever state it is as part of the Chatzi Nezek payment that he gets. So therefore he takes that loss, and that's what we mean that the Nizik participates in the loss. He loses that. It says, if that's the Chiddush, why do you have to say it here in our last Mishnah? We said it in the previous Mishnah. The Mishnah said that it says Tashlumi Nezik, to teach that the Bailim, the owner, the Nizik, has to deal with the Nevela, and that means that he takes the loss. So says we have to say it twice. One is talking about a tam, where you're paying half Nezik. One is talking about a Mud, where you're paying full Nezik. The reason why you have to say it both is because each one has a Chiddush. If you would only say a tam, I would say, yeah, by the tam, the Nizik has to take part of the responsibility for the loss of the value, at least because the animal's not a mu'id, and therefore you don't really put the blame on the mazik, you put the blame on the Nizik to some extent, and he has to deal with that. However, a mu'id where the blame is all on the mazik, so I would say not. I would say that the loss of the value in the carcass is the loss of the mazik, not the loss of the Nizik. If you would have only said mu'id, I would say, the reason there why the loss is on the Nizik is because the mazik is paying full anyway. He's already paying full price. You're going to at least let him win on the loss of value of the carcass. However, where you're only getting half, so then I would say the mazik has to deal with the loss in value of the carcass. Okay, says the Gemara, we have another raya to the opinion of Rav Papa that Chatzi Kaifer is mamin and not knas. If it would be knas, it would have another halacha. The halacha is that moedib knas is potter. If you admit that you owe a knas, you don't have to pay it. Therefore, according to Rav Huna Bar Yeshua, that it's a knas, if you were to come and admit to the court that you owe the money, you wouldn't end up having to pay it. Now we have a Mishnah that lists the differences between a tam and a mud. It says that a tam pays chatzi nezek, and that it's only migufay, that the amount that you can pay is limited to the value of the animal itself. A mud pays nezek shalom, full amount, and there is no limit. It's limited only to the amount of property that the person owns, not limited to the value of the ox itself. Now, if it's true that that knas, that chatzi nezek is knas, like Rav Huna Bar Yeshua is saying, then that chatzi nezek is something which you wouldn't have to pay if you're maida. So there's another big difference in the halachos of a tam and a mud. Tam, if you're maida, you don't have to pay it. Mud, even if you're maida, you still have to pay it. Why didn't we mention that? Obviously, it's not true. And if Papa's right, and half nezek is mamain, the amount that you're really obligated to pay, it's not just a knas. So the Gemara says, no, really, we should have mentioned it. Ton of a shear. We just left it out. We didn't list a complete list. We listed some. The difference is not all. So the Gemara says, "My shear, the high shear." Anytime you leave something out, you have to leave out more than one. You can't just leave out one thing. The such thing as leaving just one thing off a list. So the Gemara says, "There's another halacha we didn't mention, and that is kofer. If the shar kills someone, you have to pay kofer, a set amount, and if it's a mu'ud, you pay a kofer shalim. And if it's a tam, you don't pay anything. There's no din kofer on a tam. There's another difference. Not that it's regular damage where the mu'ud pays shalom and the tam pays half. No, the mu'ud pays shalom and the tam pays nothing. Therefore, that's a new halacha that's different, and that's not mentioned. Somebody says this is not a proof. Because it could be that the reason that this is not mentioned is because this halacha is not true. Because that halacha is a machlekes. Rabbi basically holds that it's not true. Rabbi basically holds that a tam does pay chatzi kofer. And therefore, it's not mentioned as a difference because it's not a difference. This is the same halacha as all other types of nezikin, which we said already, that the mu'ud pays shalom and the tam pays chatzi. So kaifer also, the mu'ud pays shalom and the tam pays chatzi. You don't have to mention that. And therefore, you don't have a proof from this Mishnah that this was left out, and therefore, you don't have anything else that was left out. And the Gemara moves on though to its next raya, and that's we have a raisa that says that if someone comes in, he admits, he's moide, and he says, my ox either killed someone or someone else's ox, he has to pay anyway. So you see clearly, moide is chayev. Now it's probably talking about a tam, otherwise what's a chiddush? Moide ben ezek sholim, I have a havamina moide b'muad, why should I have a havamina that is not chayv? So it's moide b'knas, and you see the chayv anyway, and therefore it's not knas, it's mamoina. And the Gemara answers, no, we're talking about a muad, and it's saying that a muad is not knas, a muad is mammon, and therefore you pay even al pi atzmai. However, a tam, not. Whereas if a tam not, so then how come then in the next clause in this brisa, the seifa, when it's looking for a case where you would not pay al pi atzmai, it goes to if the ox killed an eved. There, the halacha is that you pay shloishim shekel, we have a 30 shekel, and that's definitely a knas according to all opinions about an eved. Why do you have to go there to look for a case of knas where you're patal bi'atzmai? Why don't you just go to a tam and say you're patal bi'atzmai? Gemara answers, this is a brisa only about muad. We don't want to be talking about hilchas tam at all. We want to stay within muad. We talked about a case of muad where the moida is chayev. We talked about a case of muad where the moida is patal because it's a knas, and the only case of that is shloishim shel eved. The Gemara now brings another raya. This will be our final raya, but we won't paskin like it. This raya quotes a brisa that says, here's the rule. Anyone who pays more than what the damage is, he does not pay al pi atzmai, does not pay if he admits. And the implication there is anything which is more than what you damage, that's a knas, because you're not paying back what you damage, you're paying more, so it's punitive. That's a knas, and knas, you don't pay al pi atzmai, you don't pay if you admit. So the Gemara is medayik, if you pay less than what you damage, you would pay al pi atzmai, and therefore there must be that is mamain. So you see, paganiska is mamain. So the Gemara says no. If you pay, it's not the diak. The diak is if you pay exactly what you damaged, there it's mamain, and you do need to pay al pi atzmai. However, if you pay less, that's also knas, like we said, knas going to be Rav Huda, Rav Yeshua, and therefore you wouldn't be moed b'knas, would be pater on paying less. So the Gemara says if that's true, what you're saying is true, it should have phrased it much more precisely. Instead of saying anybody who pays more than the damage is knas and he's not mashal al pi atzmai, I should have just said anybody who doesn't pay exactly what he damaged, meaning more or less, he is a knas, and therefore he is pater if he's moed. Why do we say that? So the Gemara says tiyufta. It's a kasha without an answer, which would seem to indicate that the halacha should follow that. But the Gemara says that the halacha, however, still is a paganus is knasa. We just brought a proof paganus gamamayna, and the Gemara is passing the opposite paganus knasa. The Gemara says, how is that possible? The Gemara says it's possible because there's an answer to this. Even though the Gemara left it as a tiyufta, the answer is that we didn't want to say that anything where you're not paying exactly what you paid is a knas, because there's one situation where you pay half, and that is definitely mammon according to all opinions. And what's that? That's tsaris. That's where an animal was walking, it did a regel, it kicked rocks, the rocks went flying, didn't make the animal's foot didn't make direct contact with what gets broken, it kicked rocks that went flying. There the halach is only pay half nezek, but that's mammon according to everybody. And therefore that would be an exception to any rule that paying less is knas. This is definitely not knas, and that's why we couldn't just say a simple phrase, anything where you're not paying exactly what your damage is, because that didn't fit with the case of tsaris of flying rocks. The Gemara now continues with a few related halachas. Now that we've paskined and chatzei nezek is a knas, they have the following halachas. So somebody has a dog that eats a sheep or a cat that eats a chicken, so both of those are rare, the Gemara says. That's not something you would expect, and therefore counts as keren, not as shein, and therefore it's knas. Since it's knas, so halacha number one is you can't collect it in Bavel. The halacha is you can only connect knas when you have people that are smicha. In Eretz Yisrael, they have smicha, they don't have smicha in Bavel, and therefore you can't collect it in Bavel. Next halacha is that this only applies if there are small sheep and a small chicken. If there are a large sheep and a large chicken, but a small one they could eat, and therefore it would be shein and you could collect it, it would be moment and not knas. Third, if the nizik says, make me a time we're going to go to Eretz Yisrael, and there I'll collect my payment, because over there I could collect knas, we set the time and we force him that he has to go. And if he doesn't go, we put him in cher. Now, under all circumstances, fifth halacha, he has to destroy the mazik. He has to get rid of this dog or cat that did these things, because they are dangerous, obviously, and we don't allow them to have it around. And that's like a brisa of Rabbi Nassan, who said, how do you know you're not allowed to raise a bad dog in your house, and you're not allowed to keep a weak ladder in your house? Like it says, like tosim domim beveisacha, you should not put blood on your house. And now we begin the next Mishnah. This lists 5 tamin and 5 mu'adim. 5 things that have the halacha of a tam, and 5 things that have the halacha of a mu'ad. So the 5 tamin are 5 situations of keren, 5 situations in which a ox attacks with intent to harm or intent to damage. It's 5 different actions, but it's all the same intent, and that's why it's tam. So they are nigicha, which is goring with the horn, nigifa, which is pushing with the body, nishicha, which is to bite with the teeth, again for the sake of destroying and damaging, not for the sake of eating. Revitza, which is lying down on something to squash it, and be'ita, kicking with the foot. These are all told us of Karen. Now, what are the 5 mu'adin? 5 things that have to pay nezek shalim right away. So there's the mazik of shein, that if it eats something for pleasure, that's only if it's eating something that's normal for it to eat, not something abnormal. Rega, where it's walking in a normal way and it breaks things. Then you have a shar hamud, a regular shar who does a karen, but it did it 3 times, so it's a hamud already. 4th is a shar mazik, a regular karen, but it's in the reshus hanizik, where he has no business being, and there he has to pay nezek shalom even right away. And the 5th is a person is muad right away. And we didn't mention fire and the bar because those aren't living creatures. We're only talking about here living creatures. Now the Mishnah talks about a wild animal. So it says a wolf, a lion, a bear, a leopard, a polecat, or a snake are all muad right away. Their nature is to attack and destroy. Rabbi Elazar says if they're trained and domesticated, then they're not muadin, except for a snake. A snake is always a muad. The Gemara now asks a series of questions and answers very similar to what we had on our last Mishnah. The Gemara says, are we talking about under Rishus HaNizik or not? When it says that the Shein is Chayiv, obviously we're talking about Rishus HaNizik. Shein is only Chayiv in Rishus HaNizik. Then, however, it talks about Chatzi Nezek, and it says that Karen only pays Chatzi Nezek. That's what it says in the Reisha. So that obviously is talking about Rishus other than the Nizik, because according to the Rabbanon, the Karen pays Nezek Shalem in Rishus HaNizik. Later, though, it says that Karen pays Chatzi Nezek. So that must be Rabbi Tarfon if we're talking about Rishus HaNizik. So which is it? The Reisha sounds like the Rabbanon, the Sefer sounds like Rabbi Tarfon. It's a contradiction. Do you pay Nezek Shalom in Rishus HaNizik for Karen, or Chatzi Nezek in Rishus HaNizik for Karen? So the Gemara says, first answer is the beginning is the Rabbanon and the end is Rabbi Tarfon. Like Shmuel said to Rabbi Yehuda, go teach. He said, sharp one, go teach this Mishnah outside. The beginning is the Rabbanon, the Sefer is Rabbi Tarfon in my name. Rabbi Elazar, name of Rav, answered, no, it's Rishus HaNizik concerning Peiros, therefore for Shein, only the Nizik had a right to keep fruits there. Therefore, as far as Shein is concerned, it's Rishus HaNizik. However, both the Nizik and the Mazik had the right to keep their ox there, and therefore, as far as Karen goes, it's Rishus HaNizik and Rishus HaMazik, and therefore you only pay Chatzi Nizik, not Nizik Shalom.